On October 7th, Hamas had 30,000 armed terrorists. Today, around 5 months after that, Israel has reportedly killed between 10 and 12,000 terrorists. That means Hamas has anywhere between 15 and 20,000 armed terrorists still active in Gaza. They also have hundreds of miles of tunnels still active, which is where these terrorists are hiding. Hamas has changed its tactics. At first, at the outset of the war, Hamas attempted to fight Israel in the open, and that's when most of its terrorists were killed, because Hamas doesn't stand a chance against the most powerful military in the Middle East in open warfare. Now Hamas has changed its tactics, and they are not engaging against Israel other than in sporadic terrorist acts where groups of one, two, or three terrorists will come out of hiding, fire an RPG or some sort of weapon, and then retreat. In many cases, these terrorists are eliminated, but the brunt of the force it remains in hiding. Why is this? Well, Hamas leader in Gaza, Sinwar, had just made it very clear. And he said that his plan is to wait out Israel and let civilian casualties mount, which they which they inevitably have to in the midst of this warfare, and let the international community come in and stop Israel. When that happens, Hamas emerges from its tunnels with 15,000, at least 15,000 armed terrorists, and it's very easy for them to recruit more terrorists, and they claim victory against mighty Israel. And they still have the hostages. So at face glance, it doesn't seem like Israel has a lot of options other than continuing a very long-term fight and occupying Gaza, keeping troops there to make sure that these terrorists don't attack again. At some point, they will run out of food. They'll have to emerge from their tunnels, and then they can be eliminated. But of course, the international community does not want Israel to occupy Gaza. So it looks like Israel's in a tough spot. The only solution is to continue and wear them down, and it could take years. But there is one other solution that the world used against another terrorist organization, ISIS. When ISIS conquered large parts of Iraq and Syria, the United States led a coalition along with many other free countries to defeat ISIS, and they fought either with their own troops or supported allied Arab troops and Kurd troops, to finally defeat ISIS. They did not quit until they defeated ISIS because everyone understood that ISIS is a threat to freedom. They're barbarians. Their tactics were just barbaric and inhuman. So the world said, we have to destroy them. And the same thing should be happening here against Hamas. There's no difference between Hamas and ISIS. They're as barbaric, as vicious, and they proved that on October 7th. But what's the difference? Why isn't the world forming a coalition to defeat Hamas, even diplomatically, to try to stop Hamas, cut off all their funding, cut off all their supplies, cut off all their support, and bring them to their knees? Why isn't the world doing that? Instead, it seems like the world is supporting Hamas because they are engaging in negotiations, they're supporting negotiations with them, they're condemning Israel, they're demonstrating against Israel, and they are trying to force Israel to cease fire, to let Hamas continue as a viable terrorist organization that can repeat the attacks of October 7th. Why is the world doing that? And the only answer I can think of is because in this case, it's the Jews that are on the other end of this barbarity. Um, and when Jewish lives are at stake, apparently Jewish lives don't matter. Um, and we need to stand up against this and recognize that the world doesn't care about Jewish lives. And the only ones that are going to care about Jewish lives are us and our state of Israel. And that's why we have to just stand strong, support Israel, and stand strong together, united, to protect ourselves wherever we are, whether it's in Israel or the diaspora, because it's clearly the world is not on our side. In fact, the world is in many ways supporting Hamas. So let's stand firm, let's stand together, let's stand united, and let's pray that Hamas finally gets destroyed and Israel can live in peace once again.